When someone is getting ready to sell the house, preparing for their future, so maybe they're not ready to sell and they're just thinking about the options of what's coming, we're talking about a significant amount of capital here. For most people, this is maybe close to a life savings in some situations, and so it's very important that we don't blow this money. One of the things that often happens is that people want the kids to get the house. And so in doing that, they'll pick one or more children to be the person inheriting the home, and they'll put them on the deed of title. Well, there's a big problem with doing that. As soon as you add someone to the deed, they have access to that property. If there's a home equity loan attached to that house, that person now, because they're on the deed, they have access to the equity in that home. As the parent, you're thinking the house is paid off or close to paid off, and you don't realize that one or more of your children took out a loan because they want a new car. And you have a medical emergency, and so now you go for some type of a home equity loan or a HECM, which is a reverse mortgage, and you find out that you're not eligible for as much money as you thought you were because your kids have money out against the house for a car. And so not only have you lost the money, but you have a great opportunity for a lot of conflict within the family. Also, by having multiple children or multiple persons attached to that property, more people attached, the more opportunity for conflict. So the best thing to do is to put the house in trust when possible. That's not always the best circumstance, but in most cases it is. And then you have instructions in the trust as to how that property is distributed to one or more of the persons that will be inheriting the property. Well, one instance, I have many stories that I could draw from, but one that sticks out in my head is, I'll call her Barbara. She was called in to sell a townhouse that belonged to her ex-husband. Her ex-husband was in memory care, and his attorney said, we got to deal with this real estate while he still has some cognitive ability left. He was very far gone, but he had moments of clarity. And so nobody wanted to take this project on, contacted the kids. The kids wanted nothing to do with it. They were estranged from their father. They were quite bitter. They didn't want to help. The only person that was available and willing to help him was his ex-wife. And now she was 85 years old and had a bad hip and suffered from vertigo. I met her at the house, and she hadn't been in this house in probably 10 years. And this house hadn't been lived in at least 4 years because the owner had gone into assisted living and now memory care. And so the house was a mess. There were deferred maintenance, there were bugs and dead rodents in the house. It was in terrible shape. It was filthy and cluttered. And when I walked in, Barbara beat me to the house. She was sitting on the couch sobbing. And she said, I don't know what I'm going to do. What am I going to do with this? I don't have any help. How am I going to clean this up? What am I going to do with this? And I sat down with her, and we just sat for a few moments until she calmed down a bit. And I said, don't worry, Barbara, I'll take care of this. So I made it my mission to come up with the solutions for how to fix the house up and so forth. Under the circumstances, we ended up saving the estate a lot of money because it just so happened I had a buyer that was interested in moving into this neighborhood that wouldn't qualify for a loan for what the actual comparable values of these homes were. Because this home had so much deferred maintenance and was such a mess, this buyer was willing to buy the house as is, meaning none of the furniture had to be moved, nothing had to be cleaned, nothing had to be repaired. He'd buy it as is at a price he could afford. The estate, both Barbara and the attorney, decided that this price would be justified and acceptable because they wouldn't have to put money into fixing the house up. They understood that likely they could have made a little bit more money by cleaning the house up and selling it in the open market, but under the circumstances, it alleviated all that stress for Barbara. made it easy for the attorney, made a dream come true for a buyer, so it worked out well. Well, when I got started as a seniors real estate specialist, I believed that having the formal designation from the National Association of Realtors would matter, that would give me some clout to get my foot in the door and for people to recognize that I'm serious about this and that this is a lane that I've spent money and time developing my skills and knowledge base. And I've been doing it long enough now, and in this community, most people that know me in the industry that I run with, which is people that care for seniors, they all know that this is what I do for a living. I don't have to advertise it, it's known. Though at the time when I started this, I think that was very important for me to have that designation. To that end, I've had occasions looking at residential property. I had one, this person had this large home that had a conversion. His mother was living with him, her health was failing, and she couldn't use stairs anymore, and he wanted her to have privacy, so he built a very, very expensive addition to the house. What made it expensive is he put in an elevator. Elevators are very expensive. So Mom had her own 2-story house at the end of this house, but the house was really big, and he was trying to sell the house, and I saw an opportunity for this to be used as something other than a single-family dwelling, which is what it was designated as. I said, we're going to turn this into a rental. We're going to do short-term rentals. This is going to be a great place for bed and breakfast. It will be allowed in this neighborhood, and so it's basically like a small hotel. It's a bed and breakfast. You're going to use all these rooms, and that 2-story apartment is going to become a suite. And so that's where my commercial expertise saw a highest and best use outside the scope of what most realtors in residential realty would be looking at that house as. I had a circumstance. It was the cousin of this person. He was aging and his health was failing, and she called me and said, hey, can you help? But it was a situation where the father was estranged from the kids, and so the cousins and a niece and a couple nephews were interested in helping him out. His health was failing. He actually had early dementia, and so he needed to get out of the house. And he was a nice guy, but he didn't trust himself to handle any of the transaction. And so his cousin was helping me. She was my go-to, and I told her, I said, if you really want me to help with this house, since he owns it, I have to do business with him or his agent. So you have to get a power of attorney so that you can legally speak on his behalf. Otherwise, I can't do anything for you. I can only do for him. And so she got the power of attorney, which he readily granted. And we moved forward, getting the house ready to sell, because he needed that money for his memory care. He was going to need that equity. He didn't have insurance to cover, so he had to sell the house. And so we were under the gun a little bit to try to get this house sold sooner than later. And it required some work. It had to be fixed up a little bit. And we got the house put together, and I got the cousins and the niece and nephews to help out as much as they could. And we have like a party. They all came over, and we painted the interior, and then we painted the exterior, did a bunch of yard work, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. And got the house on the market, and I had 3 offers come in on the property, and I was going to present those the next day. This was on a Saturday, so I was going to present after church on Sunday afternoon. And I got a call from the cousin that said Richard had passed overnight. So now the power of attorney means nothing, because power of attorney ends with the life of the person that assigned the power of attorney. Now the house has to go into probate, and because it was in a will to go to his children, and the children wanted the house sold, but the children didn't want to help with the sale of the house. And so the niece that was helping stepped forward and said, I'll serve as the representative for the estate. And because there was no conflict, and even there was an opportunity for a great amount of conflict with the kids didn't fight anything. And they said, yeah, we'll liquidate the house. And they knew what their dad's wishes were, and they were willing to abide by those. And this is almost unheard of. Typically, when an estate goes into probate, it's not uncommon for that to take 2 or 3 years. And this was a situation where they expedited, and they were able to get this done in about 3.5 months, which still shocks me that it was done that quickly. And the niece was the representative for the property, and we actually got it sold quite quickly. So it worked out real well. One of the things that I used to do pretty heavily was pursue expired, canceled listings. What that means is that a house had been on market with a real estate agent, advertised in the multiple listing service, and for whatever reason that house did not sell, left the market unsold. And so I would ask them for a chance to sell their house. Give me a crack at it. And I had a lot of opportunities and was successful selling those houses. Without going down that road, just talking about the situation with the people trying to sell. So they're in a situation where they're frustrated. They're frustrated with an agent because it didn't sell. And so the first thing I do is try to figure out what is it likely that caused it not to sell. Was it bad marketing? Was it the condition of the house? Was the price wrong? Was the agent just lazy and didn't do a good job trying to sell the property? And so I meet with the seller and ask them questions. What do you think was the cause for it not selling? And on multiple occasions, it was evident why the house didn't sell. Because they're asking $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 more than the house was worth. In one case, it was about $150,000 above market value. And so I'm straight with them. I show them my data. This is what comparable homes are selling for. I show them the actual listings printed off. Here's this property, here's this property, here's this property. You can see the pictures, you can see when it sold, you can see what it sold for. Your house is not as nice as these houses, and they sold for less than what you're asking for the house. You're not going to get your asking price. Maybe you will, maybe you'll get lucky and that person will come along. How long do you want to sit on this property waiting for that 1 in a million to show up to buy your house? Realistically, this is where you need to be to sell your house. And I've had a couple of instances where I was shown the door because of that frankness. But if you want the agent that's going to go along with that kind of what I consider silliness, there are 4,800 other agents in town for you to choose from. I'm not your guy. When I meet with someone for the first time, they're not sure what they need to do, regardless of circumstance. Maybe it's an adult child thinking that, hey, my parent needs to sell the house and they don't want to sell, but I really got to get them out of that house. What do I do? How do I go about this? Or somebody living in the house that's been there for 40 years. That's, my husband and I bought this house 40 years ago, and he's passed, and I haven't had any real estate dealings. I don't know what to do. How do I sell a house? I always begin by asking questions. I get to know the person. In the case of trying to sell a house, what I like to do initially is have the seller take me on a tour of the house. Let's walk around the house. Let me introduce me to the house. Let me get to know the house. And they'll occasionally say, well, you're free to walk around. I say, no, I don't want to walk around the house. I want you to give me a tour of the house. You know this house intimately. You've been here for 40 years. Tell me about this house. Tell me about what's special in each room. What is it? Give me a little history lesson. And so then they'll go on a walk with me, and I get to know the person and I get to know the house. And they'll tell me stories about the house. So they'll tell me about how many times they painted this room and why they had this color versus that color. And in the process, they get comfortable with me, I get comfortable with them, and I learn their history, I learn what's important to them, what's not important to them. And so it answers a lot of questions for both of us. Answers their question about me, who I am, how I operate, what I'm thinking. I learn about them, what's important to them, what their goals are, what they plan to do next. And so quite often by the time we're done with the tour, we don't even sit down at the table to talk. They're ready to be done with the meeting, not because they're sick of me and want me to head down the road, but because their questions have been answered. And I've gotten the information that I need for that initial meeting. And so instead of sitting at the kitchen table, me giving them a sales pitch and asking them questions like, well, what is your intention when you sell this house? Where are you moving next? Those questions have already been answered in casual conversation. And so now it's time for me to bid them adieu, get in the car and head off, handshake and a wave, and they're happy and looking forward to the next meeting.